The Blue Jays hope to hit the ground running this year and continue their winning ways after narrowly missing the World Series. And this season isn't slipping away, but Toronto's response over the next 10 days may define whether this is a footnote or the beginning of a real problem.
I'm looking to the bullpen to bring my lefty in. Keep the lead and make your team look pedestrian. It's in your wheelhouse, we'll swing for the fence. You know it's money around here, and I ain't talking expense. Strike one, hit a low in the way you can't hit it. You know you want to start a rally, but you better forget it. Strike two, off speed, same spot, your car looking. Get ready at the plate, this time you're not cooking. Strike three, swinging out of the zone. You ain't even touch it first. Tell me how they gonna drive you home. Walk it back, looking like we ain't cool then. The game's over, might as well put them back to the bullpen, oh yeah.
That's right. We're coming to you for another edition, this Wednesday edition of Back to the Bullpen, brought to you by Locked On, the #1 sports podcasting network. And we hope that you make Back to the Bullpen your first listen every single day. My partner in crime, as always, is Mike Stanton, the old 2-9er. You can find him at Mike Stanton29 on Twitter. You can find me at H-Town Wheelhouse on Twitter. And look, Mike, let's get rolling. We've got some things to talk about.
Lots of things going on in Major League Baseball.
That's right. The team that we still feel to this day outplayed the Dodgers, just came up short on the win column. But on the back end, we're going to talk about Hunter Brown. We're going to talk about Jose Ramirez. We're going to talk about coaches calling pitches from the dugout. But we're going to lead off with the Blue Jays because it's not just Max Scherzer leaving early. There's a whole litany of players from the Blue Jays that are on the IL or ailing.
Yeah, he's actually just the most current one. And it's interesting that if you talk to Max says he's got forearm tendonitis. It's something he has been dealing with. And he says it's not any big deal, even though he had to come out after just 2 innings. And his velocity was down, over a mile an hour. His average velocity was down over a mile an hour. So we'll have to see exactly what that means. And when you go back to when Max Scherzer signed with the Blue Jays, you would actually say, you know what, this was a luxury. Did they really need him? No, they didn't really need him, but, he had a good run with them through the World Series. Okay, let's bring him back. And, get, first ballot Hall of Famer, all that kind of stuff. But now it's a blow because of the injuries that they've had all the way through spring and then to this point in the season. Who are these guys? They just lost Alejandro Kirk to a thumb surgery. Cody Ponce had a significant UCL injury. Then you had starters Jose Barrios, Shane Bieber, Bowden Francis, Trey Savage. I mean, you just had a litany of injuries. And, they haven't gotten off to a great start this year either. And this is just another blow. We'll keep our fingers crossed that, this situation with Max Scherzer isn't a long-term deal, but it's kind of been a tough season. We've had some really big name players. We've had 2 first ballot Hall of Famers just in the last few days go down with injuries. The other one would be Justin Verlander, who went on the IL with a hip inflammation situation. But I mean, we've had Juan Soto has a calf. Mookie Betts just went on the IL with an injury. Who am I missing? I mean, there's been several guys that have gone down.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, with the calf injury, you got Trout with
Trout. That was the other one I was.
Yeah, Trout with the hand. I mean,
yes.
Yeah, I mean, that just the list goes on and on. Mm-hmm. I mean, injuries are a part of baseball, and maybe it's because I follow it so closely now, but it seems like injuries are more of a regular occurrence.
Yeah.
And I mean, something that you just expect, almost to the point to where it seems to be at an epidemic level, Mike.
Well, I think it's been there for a while. And I mean, what have we seen? Usually we're seeing the pitchers go down. That's the bigger issue. But we've seen, position players go down left and right. And for the last many years, it's one of the reasons why these organizations sign players that you're like, well, do you really need them? I mean, we just had that conversation part of this conversation was Max Scherzer. Why did the Blue Jays actually sign him?
Right.
Well, now they need him, and he's not there because of the other injuries. But it's why these organizations, they have minor league systems. It's why, you have depth built not just in your big league roster, but your AAA roster and your AA roster, because you're going to need 35, 40 players to get through a 162 game season.
I mean, the Blue Jays tied a franchise record using 18 pitchers in the first 10 games. So,
Oof.
I mean, those are insane numbers, Mike. And hopefully, because it is a long season, it will not be something that lingers, or they take care of it now rather than
it's
later.
got to linger a little bit, because when you go on the IL, for a minimum of 10 days. Pitchers go on for 15 days, but you have several of these guys that started on the IL and that are in the process of coming back. But it's not imminent. It's not right around the corner. So this is going to be at least for a few weeks. Not talking Max Scherzer, just talking about overall for the Blue Jays. And the thing is, they're going into last night's game, they were 4-7. I mean, this isn't a team that has been clicking on all cylinders, and
No.
they're already a crooked number back in the division.
Well, also, look, injuries don't always explain losses. I'm sorry, injuries can explain losses, but they don't explain bad baseball. No matter who's on the field, you still have to go out there and play.
Sure.
You've got to play 9 innings. You can't make base running mistakes. You can't make fielding errors. You can't have poor situational execution. I mean, that just kills momentum. And that's the difference, Mike, between surviving adversity and spiraling because of it. And
it's who replaces these guys, because everybody
Right.
has injuries. There's not an organization that doesn't have major injuries every single year. But it's again, that's why you build the depth in your organization that you do. And this is why, general managers, their lifespan probably isn't as long as everybody else, just simply because of the stress that they have to go through on a daily basis. And the thing is, even when things are going well, they're still worried. When is it going to happen? When is it going to drop? When am I going to have a hamstring pull? When is somebody going to need Tommy John? When are the injuries going to happen? Because they're coming.
Yeah, I know it is an inevitability. I think a lot of times we focus more on pitchers and their elbows and TJ
Sure.
and all that stuff, and forget about all the other things. But also, is it because some of these athletes are bigger, stronger, faster, and so they've got more demand, more torque, more force? I mean, could it be something that simple, that you just got humans doing things that they weren't doing 30, 40 years ago? I mean,
I think pitchers absolutely. I think
Okay.
pitchers absolutely. That is the velocity. You go back to when I started in the late 80s, early 90s. Average fastball velocity may have been below 90.
Wow.
But if it was above 90, it was only barely above 90. Now you're talking about your finesse pitchers, the pitchers that are really using location. These guys are still throwing 93, 94, 95, even 96 miles an hour. But I mean, we talked about Mason Miller yesterday. He averaged 101 or 102 miles an hour last year. He's still throwing that hard this year with location. And the human body, it doesn't matter how good a shape you're in. God did not create us to throw overhand. And there lies the problem for pitchers. Things are going to break. That's why you watch, I like watching the college softball, softball season, especially once they get into the playoffs. But, some of these college girls are throwing just crazy hard. And look at their numbers at the end of the season. I mean, they are
throw a lot of
every
innings.
single game. It's truly remarkable.
Yeah, I remember
the best schools in the country, they have like 2 or 3 good pitchers, because that's all they need.
Right. And I remember the time a friend of mine told me One of my former players who I coached in 7th grade, she was a like 3 or 4 sport player, played basketball, played softball, played volleyball. And when she went to play softball and she was a pitcher, she would pitch 3 games in 2 days. And I'm like, how's that possible? He's like, it's fast pitch. It's a natural motion.
It is a natural motion. Like, oh, and what gets tired are their legs. That's where the fatigue comes in. It's not their arms. And you're right. It is a natural movement. It's how God created the arm to move. And that's why they can go. That's why they can go so long. Baseball players, unfortunately, that's just simply not the case. We were not designed to throw overhand. That's why elbows and shoulders eventually break down.
Exactly. So, Mike, what we're going to do in our next segment, we're going to talk about our teams killing the catcher position with dugout pitch calling. We'll hit that subject next.
Hey, this is Jeff Carr from Locked On Reds, and when it comes to our futures, we all have great ideas when it comes to our job, when it comes to our house, when it comes to our vehicles, all that great stuff. But honestly, when it comes to securing that future, I don't know what I don't know. And when me and my wife sat down to figure out the life insurance thing, Ethos made everything simple. Everything's online, you have a quick and easy application process, and you find out exactly what you need for coverage all in one spot. Ethos makes everything so convenient when it comes to learning about your own life insurance, because insurance is something that is far beyond batting average or on-base percentage. It's way out in left field for me. Ethos made it all easy. Take just 10 minutes and get covered today with life insurance through Ethos. Get your free quote at ethos.com/lockedonmlb. That's ethos.com/lockedonmlb. Application times may vary and rates may vary.
All right, so let's get into this. This is interesting because we are in the age of pitch calm. We are in the age of catcher and the pitcher have a game plan. The guy is in a 1-2 count. We know in a 1-2 count, this guy likes to hit pitches that are on the outside part of the plate. We're going to throw him inside. So we're going to get your slider or your sweeper that cuts inside on him. But I mean, what's going on with, I thought we were dependent on pitch calm. Now we're calling pitches from the dugout like old school. What's up?
Yeah, this is something that I really don't know how I feel about. Well, I do know how I feel about it. I don't like it whatsoever. And there's actually 2, not 1, but 2 major league teams that are actually calling pitches from the dugout. It is not done by the pitcher-catcher combo. In those 2 organizations, the Miami Marlins and the Colorado Rockies. The reason I don't like it is, to start off with, it bucks the trend that has been in baseball forever. I've never been for even amateur baseball, them calling pitches. They do it in high school. Actually, they do it even less in high school. They do it in select ball. They do it in high school. They do it in college.
Rife with it in select. Yeah.
Yes, it's. I mean, to tell you the truth, if the coach doesn't call pitches, that's actually the aberration. That's actually the that's the outlier. But now to do it in Major League Baseball, I guess I've had some time. When I first saw this, when I first heard about it, it was pretty upsetting. I was kind of ticked off. I was like, listen, that is not Major League Baseball. These are not children out there pitching and catching. But in this day and age, you were talking about how this, pitch calm and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, that's true. But we've been in the overly analytical department for Major League Baseball for quite a while now. And I think that's where this is all stemming, is that you're using science, you're using data to figure out how to get hitters out. And to tell you the truth, the Miami Marlins have actually had quite a bit of success with this already in this season. So the question is, how many other teams are going to do it? Here's where I'm I don't want to say I'm okay with it because it's still irritating, but I can at least see the chain of thought. The Marlins catcher is very young. Okay. And I don't think he has really caught on to the due diligence that needs to be done for big league catchers. And that is, you have to not just know every hitter, you have to know how every pitcher attacks the hitter's scouting report. So there's a lot of due diligence. There's a lot of studying. There's a lot of schoolwork that has to go into it. And if you're using it as a learning tool, I understand, but these teams aren't using it as a learning tool. They're doing it across the board with the whole pitching staff.
Exactly. Basically what happens, for people who don't know, is the coach relays a numerical code to the catcher. The catcher has a wristband, much like a quarterback.
Sure.
And then the catcher just punches in the pitch, and the dugout.
It goes to the pitch com.
Yeah. Through the pitch com, presses the button, goes to the pitch com. He hears it. The dugout decides the pitch type and the sequencing. And you talked about Augustine Ramirez. Last year, he graded as the worst defensive catcher in baseball, minus 29 blocks above average, 8.8% caught stealing. This allows him to focus on receiving, blocking, throwing, and offense.
Yeah.
But I would say, and this is just the fan in me, shouldn't you know how to do that as a major league catcher already?
Well, I mean, the thing is, to answer your question in one word, yes. But, of course, there's a big but in there.
Right.
But, if you're not doing it in the minor leagues, if you didn't do it as an amateur, okay, you have not built that,
that makes sense.
Long time. And listen, what are you trying to? You're trying to get big league hitters out. That's it. Period. You're trying to win baseball games. You're not, the player development side of this. You're not, that's not supposed to be done at the big league level. That's the player development stuff is supposed to be done by the time you get to Major League Baseball. You're supposed to be a polished player. Now, obviously, that's a general statement, and that is not the case in many, many instances. But I'll tell you, baseball is a copycat sport. And with the Marlins actually having success, I wonder how many other major league organizations are actually considering this.
Well, here's the question I want to ask with this. I'll make this statement, then I have a question for you as a former pitcher. My statement is this: if this is done to help a catcher develop as a player and eventually goes to being able to call the pitches and create a game plan, I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
But here's my question. If a catcher never learns sequencing, game flow, and hitter adjustments, how does another team trust him later on? Where's his value? Doesn't it tank his value?
I think it absolutely does. And this is something that Carlos Rodon from the Yankees was actually talking about, that when he becomes a free agent, unless it becomes very popular across Major League Baseball. And that could happen. I mean, we see it happen all the time with whatever little nuances a team may be doing, that somebody else picks it up, and then another team. And then, in just a short period of time, you got half the league doing it. So is there a chance that could happen? Well, there is, because we know how much the front offices like to have some kind of control on the field of play. And this is just another way that they could do that. The other side of this is veteran pitchers. I think that is something that you're going to have a little bit harder time convincing, because a lot of, I tell pitchers all the time, I said, somebody gives up a home run or gives up a big hit, what was the pitch? Did the pitch? And I'll ask, I said, well, who called the pitch? He said, well, the catcher did. And every single solitary time I say, listen, the catcher did not call a pitch. The only person that can call a pitch is a coach from the bench. I said, what a catcher does, a catcher suggests a pitch. If you do this, that means you agree. Unless your head can't do this, that means that, you agree with the pitch. So you can't blame it on the catcher. Now, the other side of this, there are pitchers in the past. Mark Burley, who was one of the fastest workers in all of baseball through his whole career and was very good at it, he let A.J. Pierzynski call every single pitch. He didn't. He never shook it up. But his mindset was, I'm just going to go with what AJ says. And he trusted AJ had done his due diligence, and done the homework he needed to do to make sure he had a game plan against everybody in the lineup.
And, from talking with Yainer Diaz, from talking with guys like Ryan Stanek in the past and other pitchers, there's a lot of catchers out there that really get a tip of the cap from the pitchers. And because those catchers really, when you become a student of the game, you become a student of the game.
Sure.
And I remember Ryan Stanek said, whenever a pitcher makes a mistake, it's not because the catcher called the wrong pitch. It's because the pitcher simply did not execute what was called.
That's my number one. My number one thought always is if a ball gets hit hard, okay, can there be a discussion about pitch selection? There can be a discussion, but very rarely is a ball truly hit hard that is a pitch that the pitcher wanted to throw. He put it in the right location and somebody just beat him. Most of the time, there's a mistake. The pitch is a little high. The pitch is a little on the plate. The pitch is a little lower than it's supposed to be. Whatever. You put the ball in the heart of the plate, regardless of what the pitch is, the ball has a much better chance of being hit hard. And most of the time, when a pitch is hit hard, it's a pitch that missed location.
Yeah, exactly. This is a great discussion, and it'll be definitely interesting to keep our eyes on that. If you see something in the game or you hear of a strategy that a team's using, reach out to us on social media, ask us questions. We would love to answer them. But next, for our last segment, we're going to close things out with talking about the new Mr. Cleveland, J-Ram, as some call him around the baseball world, and the Astros lose their ace, but the timetable is unknown. Everybody, thank y'all for tuning in to Back to the Bullpen. I want to tell you about our friends at Game Time. Why? Because Game Time is an amazing app, and it's baseball season. And I don't use any other website other than Game Time to get my tickets. I don't go to those other places. I can't say their names. Why? Because it's not worth mentioning. The only problem I have with getting tickets on any service is the long queues, the surprise fees, and the prices jumping at checkout. Well, that doesn't happen at Game Time. They are always innovating ways to make the ticketing experience better for you, the fans. And it's simple to use. It doesn't take a rocket science to figure it out. You get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time at the best price. And here's the best part. The fees are included. The seat views are phenomenal. 100% authentic tickets. Zone Deals lets me pick the section, or lets you pick the section, since you're the one going to the game, and save even more while Game Time selects the seats. You can also follow your favorite team. You can get alerts when new deals drop. 2 taps and it's done. No stress, no hidden fees, just great seats and minutes. That's what makes it so easy to decide last minute to hit a game. So take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code Locked On for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. And make sure you join the Everydayer Club. Baseball is here as we celebrate. I am giving you a full month of the Everydayer Club for free. Just go to lockedonpodcast.com/everydayer and use the code FINALLY. You'll unlock every episode ad-free, get access to our private listener group chat, and tap the link in the show notes and use the code FINALLY to claim your free month today. So, Mike, we talk about a milestone. There's actually more than one milestone.
Sure.
We saw Jose Altuve. Jose Altuve got his 2,400th hit.
Yeah.
But Jose Ramirez, 1,620 games.
Wow.
He surpassed Trey Turner at 1,619.
Terry Turner. Everybody in Cleveland has to know
Trey Turner.
who Terry Turner is. I mean,
Terry
what a
Turner.
Household name.
That's right. I didn't know who Terry Turner was so much that I called him Trey Turner.
Right.
And I'm looking right at my notes. But 125 years of Cleveland baseball history. Yeah. This guy, Ramirez, is the ultimate team guy. When he signed that long-term deal with Cleveland, he cemented his fate. And I mean,
And he also left money on the table.
He did. He took a hometown discount.
He wanted to stay in Cleveland. He wanted to retire as a Guardian. And, 16, the number he had to beat was 16-19. He got to 16-20, and now he's just going up from there. Okay. He's only 33 years old. And he is still one of the premier players in Major League Baseball. So he's going to still be there for quite a while. And it's great to see because, listen, like you said, he's an ultimate team player. There's no doubt about that. He is also a freaking beast. This dude can really swing the bat. He can do everything. And he's another one of those players that's not, 6'5", 215 pounds of chiseled granite. He's not big in stature, but he's fast. He can really hit. He can hit for power. And he is a fan favorite. So congratulations to Jose Ramirez on a tremendous feat. I mean, 1,620 games. I mean, that is a lot of baseball.
That speaks of durability, consistency, loyalty. Here are his numbers on the franchise leaderboard, okay? Second all-time in home runs, third in doubles, seventh in hits, second in RBIs, ninth in walks, 27 career multi-home run games. That's a club record. He had his iconic moment when he stole home, his playoff clincher walk-off, his 2-3 homer games, his 2025 division comeback homer. I mean, this is a guy, Mike, and you're a small hall guy.
I am.
I think this guy is a 1%er if there's ever been one in Cleveland.
I don't know if I would have to dig deeper in the numbers, but one of the criteria to be a Hall of Famer is you're one of the premier players of an era. And he has definitely been that. I mean, he is in one of the smallest markets in all of baseball. And what I like is you don't hear him complaining about that. I mean, he still plays with a joy of, an 18 or 19-year-old. I'm just happy to be here. He has fun on the field. I mean, there's just nothing not to like about Jose Ramirez. And I love the fact that, Major League Baseball has acknowledged this, and he's going to keep going. And to tell you the truth, by the time it's all said and done, he's going to have a 1 next to a lot of those categories by the time he's finished.
Well, I mean, he's got 7 years until he's a 40-year-old player. He does play third base, and so right now his career numbers, a career OPS of 854. He's less than 50 away from 1,000 RBI. He's less than 20 away from his 300 home runs, batting 278, stolen almost 300 bases. So I think you give this guy another 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
You're going to get this guy close to 350, 400 home runs. And that right there, I think, would seal the deal. I think when it's all said and done, Jose Ramirez is going to be in the Hall of Fame.
I think I don't know. I don't think he's there just quite yet.
Right.
But I think he is well on his way. Same with, you mentioned Jose Altuve. I think Jose already is a Hall of Famer. He's already the best player that the Houston Astros have ever had.
Yes.
Sorry, Craig Biggio. Sorry, Jeff Bagwell. But that's just the same. And now he's got 2,400 hits, and he still has, he's a little bit older than Jose is, but he's still playing at a very, very high rate.
Oh yeah, definitely. So continued success to Mr. Ramirez for sure. But the Houston Astros, Hunter Brown felt something in his throwing program Friday. We mentioned on the show the day before. And then it came out today that he's being shut down from throwing completely for 3 weeks.
Right.
Because he has a grade 2 shoulder strain. And they say they're hopeful. They're not worried. But Mike, if I'm being honest, the Astros aren't always the most forthcoming club when it comes to players and their injuries.
Not a whole lot of transparency. No.
I
And-
hope
and
you're
listen,
right about not being worried.
there's no way they can't. I mean, they're trying to put on a brave face. Okay, fine for the fan base. There's no way they can't be. I mean, look at what the Astros have done so far this year. And the crazy thing is, this is the exact opposite that this franchise has been for the last several years. You know, it's the offense that has been suspect. They're arguably the best offense in all of baseball right now.
Yeah.
But it's their pitching that has been extremely suspect. You know, they're among the, if not the worst, among the bottom dwellers in just about every pitching category, especially their rotation. And now you take out, you know, he was, you know, this, you're not talking about a middle of the rotation arm. You're talking
Right.
about Hunter Brown was third in the American League Cy Young voting last year. I mean, this guy had a tremendous season. He was well on his way to becoming, you know, a league ace. He's going to have another great season to do it, but he was doing, you're talking about big time power stuff.
Exactly.
And I mean, if he's shut down for a whole 3 weeks of no throwing at all, that means he's going to have to ramp back up. That's if there is no injury. I mean,
so
if
the question is, Chandler Rome brings it up in his article in The Athletic, is there are questions about spring training. Him, you know, throwing 96 and 98. Was that a concern? Dana Brown expressed that being a concern. To me, as a baseball fan, I'm like, really, we're not letting guys throw 98 in spring training. I didn't know that was a thing. Maybe I'm just naive. But also there was some question as to handling his first start where he threw 102 pitches.
Right.
I mean, but Mike, at what point do we stop? I just feel like we act like these guys can't do anything physically, like they're porcelain dolls.
They're coddled. There's no doubt about it. And, you know, the reason they are is because everybody's trying to keep their guys healthy. As far as throwing 98 in spring training, that's what the dude throws. And you can't complain about how hard he throws in spring training when, you know, everyone's pitching philosophy is let it rip. I mean, that's, you know, throw the ball as hard as you can. You throw bullpens, you know, you throw bullpens hard. You pitch in the games, you throw hard. You know, you're not talking about backing off a little bit and adding and subtracting. No, that's not what happens. You know, the philosophy, and this isn't Astros. This is all the way across Major League Baseball. And I think this is 100%. One of the big reasons why we have the injuries that we do is that it is a max effort for all the pitchers. Is, you know, when you throw, that's what you throw. Spin the ball as fast as you can, throw the ball as hard as you can. And then there was also talk about, you know, between his first start and his second start, he only had 4 days instead of 5 days. Well, you know, we had decades of 5-man rotations, and that's what you're supposed to do. He's only done it a couple times in his career, and that.
And he's not been injured, and he's still young, and there's just so many things that, you know, if the Astros are your team, which
but he didn't have an issue coming out of his second start. This was in his throwing program afterwards. So, you know, the question is, what happened? I mean, was this a weightlifting issue? Was this? I mean, I don't. And listen, this is all speculation, and we're not supposed to speculate, but that's what we're going to do because this is our podcast. You know, you don't know what happened, but like you said, the Astros have not been the most transparent organization when it comes to injuries. You remember, you know, Kyle Tucker does not have a broken leg until Kyle came back and Kyle said, "Yeah, I had a broken leg."
And then Jordan's hand and Alex. Hey,
Alex,
I could go on and on. Alex Bregman's hamstrings.
Yeah. There's a list. There's a list.
Been there, done that. Got the T-shirt, literally. But you know, seriously, you know, this topic and others will be interesting to talk about. I think it's going to be longer than 3 weeks. I think it's going to be.
Listen, it can't be less than 3 weeks.
It can't be less than 3 weeks.
I mean, it's a 15-day IL. I almost said deal. 15-day IL. But you know, if they're not going to pick up a ball for 3 weeks, he's going to have to ramp up. You know, this is going to be a situation. Exactly. He's going to just step right back into the rotation, you know, and go in and be a dominant starter. There's going to be time. So you're looking at probably a minimum of, and this is a guess, a minimum of 4.5 to 5 weeks, a minimum. It's probably going to be longer than that.
Yeah, and I'm going to take the over on that 5 weeks,
Yeah,
Mike.
I will too.
I hate to say
I
it.
will too.
Well, hey, this has been a great show. I want to tell everybody to make sure you tune into our podcast. Tomorrow we're going to come back. We're going to talk about just more division races, what's going on, who the big hitters are. The Astros are struggling, but they're not the only team that's struggling right now. There are teams that are supposed to be competing that aren't. But we want to thank y'all for tuning in to Back to the Bullpen. If you make us your first listen, we would appreciate that. Make sure you follow the podcast. Go to Locked On MLB. Go to the Apple Podcast. Look up the Back to the Bullpen episodes. And if you never miss an episode, join the Everydayer Club. It's built for you. You get Back to the Bullpen ad-free, plus members-only Discord across so many more just on every device you have. Head to lockedonpodcast.com/everydayer. Check that out and join us today. For those of you on video, we send you to the first ever 24/7 National Locked On Podcast Network YouTube channel. And on audio, we send you for your second listen to Sully over at Locked On MLB. And you know what? For myself, for Mike, and everybody here at Back to the Bullpen, thank y'all for stopping by. Tell a friend. Y'all come by and see us. Y'all have a good one. Play ball.
Adios.